Something else you did for us, the second thing I want to talk to you about, though, is you finally wrote a piece for us on the website.
Yes,
Uh,
I can write.
our social media coordinator turned writer. No, so you wrote a great piece, and it was basically directed towards the fan base, who've been very, I don't know what's the word, I guess. They've been complaining a lot, just put it simply, about a lot of the little nitpicky things that have been going on, and the bench has started off not good, and then Tayshaun was playing, and Courtney Lee wasn't starting, and then you got Jordan Adams and Jarnell Stokes that are wanting them to play, and were it not for one basket at the end of the Milwaukee Bucks game, your Memphis Grizzlies are 11-0, and you wrote a piece. What was behind that, and why did you decide to write it? Why was that message something that you wanted to let Grizz Nation know about?
As many things that came from Twitter, there was a conversation Brad Carson from 92.9 and I were having together about the fans. There was a lot of glasses half full kind of negativity going around about the wins. It's like we won, but the bench played horrible. We won, but wow, Quincy played rough, or Tayshaun played terrible, or whoever. Mike had a horrible game. It was just so negative, and I thought, and I was kind of joking with Brad, like, wow, these are the same people that were not, or at that time I think we were 6-1 when the idea came together, and we said, wow, these are the same people that are complaining we're 6-1, but on one hand they're complaining about how we play, on the other hand they say we never get any national recognition. So it was just a little ironic how that came apart in that conversation. So I decided to write the piece and kind of back it up from somebody that sat in the stands. The first year we were season ticket holders through the company I worked for 3 years. So we went to every game. We had nothing to do. We'd go downtown. We'd go over to Overton 78 or High Point Pinch or North End. And I always tweet out for the kids, those were restaurants down there now because they don't even know those existed. And you go to the games and watch, and it's like, hey, Kobe's coming to town. Michael Jordan's playing for the Wizards is coming to town, or Kevin Garnett's with the Timberwolves coming to town. And you started to love the team because we were underdogs. We were just a rough team, terrible record, but you loved the team. And how many times we look at each other and be like, boy, if we ever got good, because people would come to see the other teams a lot of times to play, and it would always chap us because we, the original team are always real close to me because I always remember that time, the struggles that we had as a franchise. Sidney Lowe days were lean, and then we got Hubie, and we made the playoffs, and we were so happy, but we got swept. 3 years in a row, we got swept out of the playoffs, and now it's kind of this mentality of win it all or Western Conference or bust. Just enjoy the ride. As Tony Allen says in tweets, the best thing is keep a cool booty. That's the quote.
Yeah, and that is true, right? I mean, it's about the process. It's about the ride. That's what's exciting. Now, yes, it's always exciting to get great results, but the Grizzlies have an NBA franchise. Memphis is an NBA city now. Like, we have a franchise here. They're not going away. They're not going anywhere. There's a lot of other cities out there that would love to have an NBA franchise. There are some cities, Seattle, that have had franchises taken from them. There are other cities who, Vancouver, think that they should have the Grizzlies franchise back in their city. But, it is something that's special, right? It's only 30 cities, and really, if you take NBA franchises. And so, like you say, it's something I think we all need to appreciate and not kind of get ahead of ourselves. And yes, we want results. We want the NBA championship. We want to be in the finals, just like every team does. But it's a process to get there. Our franchise is only 19 years old. You've got to actually, you've got to go through the hard times to get to the great times. And for people like yourself who have been through those valleys, I think it makes those mountaintop experiences even more special. But unfortunately, I guess it's not on it, but it is in the sense of our conversation. A lot of people weren't there through those hard times. A lot of people didn't experience those things, so they're used to winning. And so all they want to see is a winning team, and they were expecting us to be an elite, franchise, an elite team every single night on the court. And it's just not the way we play. It's not how we are, right? I mean, that's not our identity. You wrote a little bit about that as well.
I coined it years ago, and it may have been 7 or 8 years ago. We were at a Grizz game, and we won. It was so ugly, and I think we beat the Jazz. And it was one of those ones we won by 2 or 3 points, and fans are coming out. We won, but fans are coming out like, God, that was ugly. Well, I said that's a mud game. That's what we do. We get down in the mud. We do the dirty stuff. We rebound. We get the block shots. We play good defense, and we won the game. And so now every time that we're playing a game like that, Twitter will blow up. I'm like, mud game. Everybody will send pictures of mud, Mud Island or mud and trucks. We're in the mud. We're in the mud. And you even hear it. It's so great now because you'll hear, Pete will say that on TV or Brevin or somebody say, we're in the mud. Laugh because of where that came from. But it's so right. We just get down and dirty and do what you need to do to win the game. And as a fan, it just really, it strikes close to home because I remember when I wish we had a franchise like this. I quoted in the piece about the Patriots, and when I grew up, I was actually a Dolphins and Raiders fan, and the Dolphins always did real well in the AFC East, and the Patriots were, they were terrible. They may have won 4 games a year, 5 games a year, and they got a good coach and a good thing. And now for the Patriots every year, it's Super Bowl or bust, and I'm kind of wondering if that's it for our franchise, Western Conference Finals or bust. With this group and with the window open, I keep hearing like there's a timeline. Robert Perry doesn't think that way. Robert Perry is going to build a franchise here, and he's going to make this sustainable year after year after year after year. And they've got a plan down the road. Before it was kind of like what free agent would be willing to come here? If you told me Vince Carter would have signed with our franchise back in 02-03 season, I would have died. But people are willing to come here. Courtney Lee in a trade came here, and I think he'd re-sign here. He likes it here. You talk to Courtney, he likes the town. Benno. He didn't have very much success in New York. He never got on Twitter. He never did much. They were always critical of his game, always on him. You see him at Barbecue Fest. You see him around the town. They love the town. At Putt-Putt, he's cutting up. Benno had a balloon animal on his head at Putt-Putt, hugging everybody. That's the kind of team you embrace, and all the players are like that. And you know that. You see them in the locker room. Behind closed doors, they're like that. You run into them in public somewhere, they're like that. And I kind of, not to throw the guy under the bus, but that's kind of why Rudy, he didn't gel with that group. He didn't hang out with that group like the other things. You'd see him around town. He'd be cordial, but he wasn't as embracing as the other guys. So that's one thing that has really stood out about this group, and why I wrote the piece, because keep a cool booty. I mean, at that time, now we're we've got 10-1, the best record in the NBA, and we are getting national. On NBA radio on Sirius today, they talked about the Grizzlies whipping the Rockets, just whipping the Rockets, and it was about us and how we are doing well, not that the Rockets had a bad game. And on SportsCenter last night, this is a good one too, Zach. On SportsCenter, you see the lead story is we took it to them. There was a running joke. Amanda Cullen and I were talking in the stands. Said, "Yeah, they're guaranteed there'll be 20 Rockets highlights." And then, oh yeah, by the way, the Grizz won the game by a huge margin. It didn't happen that way. We got the props, and you're starting to get the recognition. If they play that way, they'll be fine. But then we'll go back and we'll play a rough game where we win, 79-78, and we'll be happy. The one thing that I would think of is, and not to take a shot at Oklahoma City, but here's a shot at Oklahoma City for stealing the Seattle franchise. They have been spoiled fans from day one. You had Kevin Durant, and I don't think they made the playoffs the first year they were there, but they were close. The next year in them, they've been perennial powerhouses, and projected to, Western Conference Finals or even to win. And now the team that they got on the floor, minus Durant and Westbrook, reminds me so much of those teams we had in Memphis those early years. They're hustlers. They've got some good pieces. They've got Reggie Jackson. They got some players, but they just aren't able to get over the hump yet. And it kind of reminds me of those early teams. And I wonder, if they had that for 4 or 5 years in a row, would those fans still come out and be as loud as they were? Maybe they will, but you've got to there's a great song, you got to walk through the valley to stand on the mountain of God. So get into the valley.
That's right, man. No, I love that. You mentioned the national media giving us attention, and I do think it's kind of finally coming around very slowly. But after the Rockets win, I think you've seen a lot of people begin to go, okay, maybe they are a contender. All right, man, okay, maybe they are. But one thing that most people who have ever been to Memphis, national media, they will always leave the city. 2 things. That city loves basketball, and that food is amazing. And so I think when you put those 2 things together, Memphis is just, I just don't see how, and again, I'm biased. We're all biased, right? But I just don't see how Memphis would ever lose the NBA now once we've got it. I mean, it's just the perfect. I mean, Adam Silver came here, and I know he came here and he was kind of talking about the Donald Sterling thing, but even in his press conference, he said, Memphis is a model franchise. That's Adam Silver, the head of the NBA. He said Memphis is a model franchise. And I think ESPN last year, were the number one franchise in all of sports, not just basketball, all of
All
sports.
sports.
If fans can get past the little ticky-tack pettiness of, well, they weren't playing their best and they're not elite, it's like, guys, take a step back, look at where we are, look at who we are. We're Memphis. We don't get a lot of things. We don't ever get things easy. And now our basketball team doesn't get things easy, right? I mean, so we've got to adopt that and accept that as fans and as a city and go, you know what, you're right, because we don't get things easy, and so we're not sit here and be spoiled brats and try to think that, well, we have to be this or else we're not any good, or, well, there's a problem out there. No, that's a great thing that people have expectations, but it also needs to be tempered expectations, and we can't forget where we came from, that type thing. You always hear that. Don't ever forget where you came from. And I think that's important for the city to understand, and I think it's important for the franchise moving forward. So, man, Fletch, thanks for joining us, dude. Thanks for telling me your stories, and I really appreciate that, and I know the people watching did as well. Dude, you're a passionate Grizzlies fan. I'm glad you're a part of 3 Shades of Blue team, and dude, keep doing what you do and keep making people laugh. So that's all we've got for this show. Thanks, guys, for tuning into this segment, and we'll see you around next time.